What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 49 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's video. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And today we've got about a 26-minute episode. We're going to be picking up right where we left off, trying to bang out as much as the circular corridor, well, our main corridor on the saucer section as we can. So it's going to be getting right into this today. Actually, we will finish up um, the primary corridor that we're working on right now, and we're going to get done some of the straightaway corridors. Now, we won't be getting done level 2 of our corridors, but that's going to be something that we'll come back to at a later time, and we'll bang that out. But basically, at this point, now you can see I'm going with a cut line. I'm going one up and back on the inner side, and we're doing a row of the gray concrete. And we're going to be doing this going all the way around. Yeah, she's starting to look pretty good. Now, what I am actually going to do is save a little bit of time. I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to do that off camera just so we're not blowing up today's episode by over 26 minutes. Now we're going to pick up right where we left off. And now I'm at my entry point, and I'm going to do a row of the terracotta concrete going straight back, and then we're going to do it along the sides here. Now, you guys should actually already have this because I said to do this in yesterday's episode. And then on this side, yeah, we're going to switch this out too. And I mean, if you really want to leave the walls terracotta the way it is to still have that cream look, hey, you're more than welcome to. But the cool thing about this tutorial is that I'm showing you a couple of different ways that you can do this. So, and then this you should have done already the sides. Now I'm actually doing it incorrectly. Um, I believe I should have blue on the sides and cyan in the middle. But I think at this point I'm just kind of testing out to see what I want to do. And if you really wanted to, you could just do straight cyan. You got a couple of different options here. Anyway, we're going to come back now. We're going to go to do the left side, the top row that we have exposed with the terracotta. We're going to fill that in with half slabs. And we're going to do that going all the way around. And we're also going to do it on the left side, inner side too. We're going to do that going all the way around the saucer. Or excuse me, all the way around the circular corridors. So this way, when we come back, all of this will be filled in. I probably should have done some of this in yesterday's episode. It probably would have cut down on the time a little bit, but sometimes I just don't think about that when I'm working on this stuff. But this will definitely get us to a different point, or get us at least closer to where we were before. Now we're going to kind of like do an archway. So I'm going one up and straight across. Now that'll be, you won't be able to see this from down there. The only thing you'll see from the bottom side here is the color, but it'll all be filled in. Now this row that I'm adding right here, you're actually going to swap that, both these rows of left and right, you're going to do gray concrete. We're not going to be doing the top in terracotta. Because at this point, a lot of what I'm doing here, and I'm trying to call out all the stuff that I'm making changes, or that I will make changes to. So this way, you guys don't have to make the same have the same learning curve that I did during this whole ordeal, because that's something that you're just going to run into when you're building these ships. You're going to make changes, you're going to make tweaks, you're going to make small alterations here and there. It's funny, I was actually talking to somebody about that on my channel today, that sometimes you may not build something out the way exactly the way you want it, but that's okay, because at that point you can just make changes to it. Because, like, for example here, they weren't sure about proportion size for their initial ring when we were starting out the saucer. But the cool thing about the scale and the size that I made this is that we're actually going to have plenty of room to do everything that we need to do here, and it's going to come out fantastic, and you're going to have more than enough room to do everything that you want. But if you do make small mistakes, don't worry about it. We'll cross those bridges as we get there. And if you have questions, or you need help, or you get stuck, or maybe you just need a little bit of advice on what to do, drop a comment below. I'm usually pretty responsive in the comments section. I'll help you out if I can. um, but the cool thing about these builds is that what I'm trying to get at is that they're customizable. They're very customizable, and you can make it work based on what you have going on, because maybe you're not building one for one or trying to build one for one exactly what I'm doing here. Maybe you're just using this as a loose reference. We'll take that opportunity just to try out a couple of different things and see what works. That's what I do, and like, honest to God, that's what I do. And you see here, we're doing a couple of different things color scheme wise for our corridors. And you're not going to come across this stuff unless you're willing to try new things, because I can't stress enough how many times, um, not only that I'll make a change, but 9 times out of 10, I will what I'm set to fall on is something that I was just testing out. So just be willing and open to try new things. And if, when you make these mistakes, just take that as an opportunity just to roll the punches and try some different stuff out. Anyway, getting a little bit back what I got going on here, you can see I'm going down the X access point, front and back, left and right. And I'm cutting out doorways, and I'm doing my pillars going across, because right now I'm trying to mark my doorways. So we're doing this for all four sides, because what we're also getting ready to do here, because now um, sauce or our corridor is mostly done. We're going to be doing our straightaways. Now, on the top side here, where we just added the gray on each side, if you really want to save some time, on the middle of each side of the gray, do the sea lanterns to fill that in, and just do that going all the way around your corridors. This way, we'll get a nice light source in there, and you'll actually be a little bit ahead of where I'm at right now. Because you can see actually where I'm at, I've got opposite. I need to rewind because I was meaning to stop on that. Because you're actually, with the changes that I'm just suggested to make, you're actually ahead of where I'm at right now, which is a cool thing. Because as you can see here, there we go. On each side of the gray, we have the white terracotta. That's why I was saying to switch out to the gray. And then this top row of the gray, this is what you're going to be switching out for. Well, actually, you're going to be getting rid of that, and then the same row of the gray on each side, that's in the middle where you're going to be putting the sea lanterns. If you're not exactly sure what to do, you can definitely wait until I do that on one of the future episodes, and I will do it. But if you just want to get ahead of the game, feel free to do so. But we've got our initial circular corridor completed, and it feels pretty good. We've got the first step in getting our layout of the enterprise done. This is going to be a multi-step process. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it for you. Um, we're going to be doing the straightaway corridors now, and then from there, it's only going to get more complicated, because then we're going to have to work out our turbo lift system from going from the saucer section to the lower hull, and then not only the saucer from the saucer section up to the uh, main shuttle bay, and then also the bridge. So there's going to be a couple of things to figure out here, but we will get there. But like I said, today we're just really after this point, we're just going to be focusing on the straightaway corridors. But I'm mostly just giving you a taste of things to come that we're going to be doing here on the tutorial going forward. Because I'm not going to lie, good portion, I'd say 85% of my interior on my Enterprise D isn't even done yet. And a lot of that is just because the time it takes to render this stuff, and I've just been slowly building bit by bit. I've been going back and forth between the saucer section and then the lower hull, and just working out my corridors. That's the most important thing that you can do. Do your corridors first. This way, everything else that you add services those corridors, and it actually works out kind of nice, believe it or not, because once you add these corridors in, all the corridors that you're going to have, it's going to make mapping out your ship a lot easier, because then at that point your ship's pretty much already going to be divided up for you, which will actually be really nice. So it'll be making things a little bit easier in that sense. Um, Another thing too, I'm actually going to be building parts of, well, a lot of sections of the interior a lot differently than how I did on the some of my past builds. I did a little bit of it with the Disco Era Enterprise, where I just basically built the room that I wanted. I didn't really go off of the shape that I had initially. And you're going to see a lot more of that with this build, that I'm just going to build exactly what I want. And if I end up fully using the space that I have available to me, I will. But if not, then I'm not going to worry about it too much. Because at the end of the day, once we close up all the walls and everything, and once we connect all the rooms to the corridors, you're never going to see the dead space. And anybody that sits there and tells you that they don't have any dead space on their ship, they're, excuse my language, but they're a damn lie. Because that's just the way it's going to be. You are never, ever, ever going to fill in 100% of your ship. And if you do, you're going to have room after room of repeats. And we're not really going to be trying to do that with this build. We're going to be trying to fill in and having a lot of unique stuff going on here on this ship. I've actually got a really cool idea on something that I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to talk about it, because maybe this will inspire some people to get their own ideas. But I've got the room to do it, but I'm getting ready in the next couple of days on where I'm at in the build. I'm actually going to start working on one of the holodecks. And for those of you that are familiar with Star Trek The Next Generation, you're probably very, very familiar with the Dixon Hill episodes. And I thought that it would be very fitting and very creative to recreate some of the sets from the Dixon Hill episodes, from that 1930s setting. I thought that that would be really cool. I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to pull it off, but I figured I've got the room to do it, where if I wanted to build like a small area with, like, city buildings and stuff, I could definitely do it on here. So I think that's something that's going to definitely happen. So you can just get more of an idea on some of the different things that I'm trying to do on this build, as opposed to repeating myself. Um, some of the other things that I'm thinking about doing, well, not thinking about doing, I'm going to do, uh, is I'm going to be adding a school. Hands down, they're going to have to do that. I'm actually, what I really need to do, and I will go over this on my video when I get there, as far as really sectioning off the ship. But the Enterprise D was split up into a couple of different categories. You had your entertainment deck, you had your medical deck, you had your bridge quarters, so on and so forth. So I think that's going to be something that I'm going to try to emulate on this ship as well, if I can, as much as I can. But with that being said, I don't have nearly as much room to play with as they did on the real Enterprise D. So some stuff here and there might actually have to be condensed, maybe within the same level, but maybe in different sections of that level, and maybe opposite end. That could end up being a thing. But we will get into that. But that's something I'm going to end up doing, is sectioning the ship off based off category, because the ship is so big that there's just no way that you can have just one medical bay. You're going to have more than one. You're going to have more than one restaurant. This was something else I talked about that I just recently learned about when I was doing, well, not recently, but back in February when I was doing the research on the Enterprise D. I found out that the reason that 10 Forward was called 10 Forward is because it was a 10th lounge in the forward section of the ship. You have to understand that this ship is so big, it's basically a floating city in space. And there's a lot of different areas. And, like, if you don't believe me, look it up. But there are several lounges on the ship. Now, that almost might contradict what I've said earlier, that only the people that have their ships filled are the ones that are going to have, just repeat after repeat. You won't be seeing me do that on this build. I'm not going to have like 50 different lounges just to have them. I probably will have one or two, but they're going to be different from each other. I probably will have more than one medical bay, but it's going to be different. Um, I want to really add almost everything that I can think of that a city would have. Like you need to have your schools, you need to have your security, maybe even fire department. Would you need to do a city hall? Things like that, because at the end of the day, especially on the Enterprise D, there weren't just officers living on board, there were civilians. So if you were a civilian, you would maybe the Enterprise D, would it be considered a city? And if so, would you have all these things on board? This was this is definitely something that I think should be open to discussion, and I'm hoping that I can get some of my people in the community to talk about this a little bit, because it might really open some doors on some different things that you'd expect to see on this ship. And I'm actually surprised that nobody's brought this up in the past, because they've said that several times during the course of the run of Next Generation, that this was a ship that there were civilians living on board it. This was unheard of in Starfleet. It was the first ship to do it. So you would obviously want to be able to service certain things in that within that category, I think. So it's definitely something to think about. And some of you may not think that that's relevant, but I'm telling you that it is, because when you start to think outside the box a little bit, that's where some of the coolest ideas come from. It really is. Um, and some of these cool ideas you're going to see as we go forward. Yeah, see, now we're going underneath here a little bit. You see, we actually have just enough room where I can build my secondary corridor. The main circular corridor is going to go directly underneath that. What I'm doing right now, this is so crucial to this build, because, like I was saying before, this is really going to help us dictate in so many ways the layout of the ship, and it's going to make life so much easier for us. I promise you, because this is just going to be one of those things you're just not going to have to worry about it. And we're going to swap that out for the white terracotta, the top, and then going down the sides as well. That looks pretty good. I think we might do a stripe going down the bottom here. So on the fifth row, we're going to keep counting out. We're basically going to do like brackets going on the side here, because that is on the Enterprise D. We're not going to do it on the floor, but we are going to do it going along the side. So we're going to count out in every fifth row, we're going to add another one. Some of you might ask, hey, why didn't you do this on the circular corridor? And believe it or not, I did try to pull this off. But what ends up happening, and if you don't believe me on this, try this out yourself, that when you're trying to do these pillar type detailing on your ship with different color, when you're dealing with a circle, when you start adding them, it really only looks good during the straightaway, because what ends up happening, especially with these blocks, is as you start to curve inward, because you're using blocks, the proportion looks out of whack, and they don't look in proportion to one another like you'd have with a straightaway. At the number between them, even though they're correct, but the angle that they're going at, it makes it look wrong. And for that reason, it kind of just stood out to me that it didn't look right. So I was like, you know what? For the circular portion of it, I'm not going to worry about it as much as I wanted to have it in there. But it's kind of crazy. The corridors that we're building right now, this was actually the very first thing that I ever did for the Enterprise D, because over by my Enterprise A, some of you that have been on my channel for a while now, I think I was doing the Cerritos when I showed this off. It's actually on my corridors for beginners video. I showed off this corridor, and I did a test on how I was going to do it. And this was the very first thing that I ever did on the Enterprise, which is going to end up being another rule that I'm going to mention today that I haven't talked about in a while. But if you have something that you want to try out, but you're not exactly sure if you want to incorporate it into your build, set a space off to the side on the ground and set that as kind of like your test area, where you can try out new things but without having to mess with your existing build. Sometimes I like to do that because it gives me the chance to where I can make changes to it, and even if I'm not happy with it, I don't necessarily have to worry about reverting to an old save. It's just whatever. That's my test area. Um, So definitely something that I absolutely recommend doing because it can help you in discovering the path that you want to go down when you're making changes to your ship. And you are going to be making changes. It's just inevitable. Nobody's perfect. We're all humans, so that means we make mistakes. Um, those of you that don't classify as human, okay, but the majority of us, we're all human. And unfortunately, humans do make mistakes, just the way we're made. But I'm telling you, in those mistakes is where true inspiration comes from, and true creativity can come from. I can't tell you how many times I have stumbled upon greatness based off of a mistake or an accident. That's why I always say, take advantage of those mistakes as just giving you a chance to do something better than what you did before. Even this corridor that I did right now, this definitely wasn't my first attempt. I had done, I think, when I actually built this the first time, I might have maybe made two variations of it. I only showed one of them though. The other two I ended up deleting. But I know even I'll try different things, and if I'm not happy with it, I'll just keep messing with it and messing with it and messing with it until it comes out exactly the way I want it. Okay, we're in pretty good shape. We got our sides done on this on the. I can't tell if that's the front end or a back end, but really at this point it doesn't matter because the front and back corridors are exactly identical, and the left and right are exactly identical. We were on the back end. All right, so now we need to do left and right. And now at this point, it's just literally repeating the same process that we set out for ourselves earlier on when we were doing the straightaway, the first straightaway corridor. Of course, Facebook has to go off and just play a random video right when I don't want it to, which is probably going to get caught in this episode. So that's awesome. Anyway, now we're doing our brackets now on our next straightaway corridor. And once we get through these, then we're going to be adding in the roof, I believe. And then that'll wrap us up today. We still have about 5 minutes left. This is going to be the most time consuming part of the build because we have to sit here and count all this stuff out as we go out each row because these brackets, they need to be so many apart. Yeah, because every fifth row is the one that we're making a cut. So far, so good. Got a couple more rows to go. Actually, really looking forward when we get a little bit further in this build because filling in the top portion of the saucer, that's going to be a lot of fun to do. And then especially when we get into the after that, because then we're going to start working on the shuttle bay and doing all the detailing for the interior. Then not only that, the detailing for the outside too, because at this point, other than the engines, we really haven't done any detailing on the ship whatsoever. So that's going to be pretty cool to do all of that. All right, uno mas. We got one more to do. I actually messed up on that. The first bracket that I did going across, I need to move that back by one and then do a row of half slabs directly in front of that. But that's okay. We will come back and fix that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure in today's episode that we did the roof, but now that I'm looking at the time, we might actually not get to it. So if we don't, then we'll get into it in Thursday's episode. But it's no big deal. We're not in a rush. This is a not a this isn't a relay race, and we're just taking our time and just making sure to do this right. I know at this point there's just no doubt about it. This is hands down going to end up being the longest tutorial I've ever done. But if you are looking for a video, a tutorial series on how to build the Enterprise, I'm really offering a platter here of everything that you'll need to build this thing, because I'm really going to take the time to go through and go over everything that you can possibly need on your ship. But the one sacrifice with that, and it's not even necessarily a sacrifice, is that it's going to be time consuming because of the scale of the ship and the amount of detail that's going to be going into it. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get it right. Now we're going to go each row of brackets. This part is easy because we don't have to cut out. We can do this a little bit faster. We're going to be going up one from our 3 high, so it'll be technically on the 4th high up, and we'll be doing a row straight across. We're just not going to do the bottom. The reason I'm doing that on the 4th one up rather than the 3rd one is because I want the ceiling to be a little bit, just a little bit higher on the Enterprise D, because I always felt like that's what it was, that the corridors on the Enterprise D were just a little bit bigger than some of the other Federation ships. So kind of I want to emphasize on that. And not only that, in between each one of these horizontal brackets that I'm adding, this is where all the lighting and everything's going to go. So that'll also make it a little bit easier when we do that later on too. All right, we're in good shape. After this, I think we've got 1 or 2 more to do, and then that's going to wrap us up today. How are we looking on time? We've got about a minute left. Got just enough time to bang this out. We won't be getting all the lighting in, but we've gotten a fair amount done today. Oh, made a small mistake there. Let's just clean that up. All right. And the last one. And just like that, we are done for the day. We've gotten a fair amount done. We've got a nice layout going for our corridors. This is going to make it a lot easier, believe it or not, going forward, because we've got our basic blueprint now for our main corridors. So now when we come back to this, well, tomorrow we'll be filling in the roof, but then later on we will come back and we're going to add in another level directly underneath this. Same exact pattern that we did to do the one above. So it should be fairly easy to do this, but I'll go over that with you. And the same thing with the straightaway corridors. And then what's going to be even more fun is when we add in the inner corridors, uh, the secondary ring, which will actually be, I'm looking forward to getting into that, but we'll mess with that at a later date. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, help me in supporting the channel. Definitely gives more people to check out my videos, more views I get. So everybody takes the time to do that. You all are awesome. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below. I'll try to help you out if I can. And don't forget, you can always catch my new Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Thursdays. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. Hope everybody has a happy and safe day. And what did you make today? Drop me a comment below. Let me know what you were working on. All right, I'll catch you on the next one.